You are listening to Quality Time, a podcast designed to support Nebraskan providers through their journey with Step Up to Quality. I am your host, Colleen Schmidt. Get ready to listen as we prepare to elevate each other as we step up to quality. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, listeners. I am super excited to kick off our first in a series of podcasts to support our providers here in Nebraska with Step Up to Quality. Our hope and our goal in providing these podcasts is to provide a self-care space for childcare providers, to show our appreciation for our professionals in the field, and to give you a new platform to learn from others. This is our very first podcast. This is our inaugural podcast, and it's a big deal. A secondary goal that we have with developing these podcasts is also to provide providers who are currently enrolled or perhaps considering enrolling in Step Up to Quality support, ideas, and maybe even some answers to frequently asked questions that you may have floating around in your mind, and ultimately a greater sense of community here in Nebraska. Today on our very first podcast, I will be interviewing Lauri Cimino, Lynne Cooke, and Jenny Fleming. Our theme for today's podcast is a big fat thank you to all of our providers here in Nebraska, and to also give you a bit of info of what Step Up to Quality is and why you may want to be part of this movement that's happening here in Nebraska. We will also take a moment to talk a little bit about some of the revisions that you may have heard about with Step Up to Quality and where you can find out more information about these revisions. So we're going to jump right in. Welcome, ladies. This is so fun to have a panel for our very first podcast, and I truly cannot think of a more interesting, compassionate, and qualified group of people to chat with. So let's start with some brief intros so that our listeners can understand a little bit more about you all. So Lauri, I'll have you go first. Can you share with our audience a little bit about yourself and what you do in the world of Step Up to Quality?
I'd like to say thank you so much for doing this with us. We really appreciate this. And we like to be able to have an opportunity to just reach out and talk to those folks that are interested. So I am the director of Step Up to Quality, which is Nebraska's quality rating and improvement system. And we launched our program, almost 8 years ago. Well, I guess 8 years ago, 2014. So I get to work with our Step Up to Quality team and, hear about all the great success that is happening with the programs that are participating. We have 675 that are participating right now. So that's a little bit about what I get to do, and love to hear about what's happening out there in the field with our providers.
That's awesome. Since 2014, 675. Is that what you said, Lauri? Is that correct?
I said almost. I think, I think we're 674. So almost there.
That is something to celebrate. That's amazing. All the work that you all have been working behind the scenes to get going on the forefront is starting to take some major steps and big action happening here in Nebraska. I love it. I can't wait to hear more. I'm going to ask Lynne the same question. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what's your role in Step Up to Quality?
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Lynne Cooke. I am the coach specialist for Step Up to Quality. And what that means is I have that opportunity of coordinating and supporting the team of Step Up to Quality coaches throughout the state of Nebraska. I have that opportunity again to also visit with providers across Nebraska who are inquiring about coach services. For those who are looking for a little bit of support, I get to match them up with one of our coaches around the state, and just really hoping to learn a little bit more about them, hear their stories, understand what they're going through, what they're looking for, and how we can be there to help them make improvements and really serve the children in their care.
Oh, I love that, Lynne. And in future podcast, listeners will be able to hear a little bit more in detail about the role of the coach and how a coach truly is there to support you on your journey and partner with you. And Lynne, you're our person to kind of make all of that magic happen with those interactions between providers and coaches. So that's a very important role for you to have and a big hat to wear. So very cool. Thanks, Lynne. And last but not least, Miss Jenny Fleming, if you can kind of share with our listeners a little bit about yourself and what your role is in Step Up to Quality.
Sure. Thanks, Colleen. My name is Jenny Fleming, and I am the Program Quality Specialist with Step Up to Quality. In a nutshell, basically, I work with the environment rating scales and the class tools, which are the observation tools that we use in programs to assess the quality that's happening. So I get to work with an amazing crew of observers who are very well versed in their tools, and then work with providers to calm the nerves, and help them know that, what they're doing when they are observed is going to be amazing, and they get to show off all of the great things that they're doing with the children in their care. So it's a great opportunity to see the quality behind the scenes that's happening in the programs.
What a great way to explain that, Jenny. I love that. It's really highlighting all of the amazing things that you're already doing in your programs and giving you ideas on strategies you might want to consider to improve and have more steps towards quality. I get to work directly with Jenny a lot because I am an observer for the class tool. So Jenny is like the glue that keeps that whole sticky operation going and put us together. And she's very organized and wonderful at what she does. So thank you, ladies, for sharing a little bit about what you do and what your role is here in Step Up to Quality. And since our theme for this podcast is thank you, again, a big thank you to all three of you. We could not do any of this without you. And it is nothing but joy to work with all three of you in different ways. So I'm so glad to have you today. Let's just jump in. Let's get into some of the nitty gritty and start talking about what Step Up to Quality is. So Lauri, I'm going to have you kickstart us off, but can you tell our listeners a little bit about what is Step Up to Quality and why do we have it here in Nebraska?
Sure. We've often joked that we need an elevator speech because it is hard to sum up Step Up to Quality, in just a few short words. But as I said earlier, we launched in 2014. We are the state, Nebraska's quality rating and improvement system. There were many, many states that came before us and had quality rating and improvement systems. So we were able to learn from other states what things were great and really worked well and what things we might not want to repeat. But really, the whole mission of Step Up to Quality and a QRAS is to support and offer resources to programs that are doing this really what I think is the most important work in the world. And that is raising the next generation of leaders and, helping to support communities. So we know that the last couple of years have been really, really tough. And so, again, as Colleen had mentioned, thank you is not enough, but we wanted to really help our providers know how much they are appreciated and how important they are. So in a nutshell, we offer support and resources to providers that are working with the children and families in their community.
I love how you mentioned it's the most important work in the world. I feel the same way as you, and I know everyone on this podcast feels the same as you do about that. And so what I'm hearing you say, Lauri, is really Step Up to Quality can really shape and change our communities here in Nebraska in a powerful way. And that is the point of directly investing back into our state by joining this element of our QRIS. And that's something to me that really just gets me excited about the work that we can do here in Nebraska. And I hope our listeners heard what Lauri said. I hope that hits home about the work that you're doing is the most important work, and how appreciative we are of what you're doing, especially with all of the changes and challenges that we have collectively experienced over the last few years. It's a big deal, and you matter. And we're so happy to just be part of your journey and support you. And that really, to me, is what Step Up to Quality is support, is community, is a sense of I'm not doing this alone, and I can have others who have my back and want to help me and help me be successful in order to do the most important work in the world. So I love that, Lauri. That was such a great takeaway message, I think, for our listeners to hear. So Jenny, let's talk about the why a little bit, about why do I want to join? Like I feel Lauri's message, she's sending me down that path of why, but tell us a little bit more about that why. If I'm listening and I'm let's say a provider for a at-home setting, and I'm considering joining, and I'm just listening to this podcast, what's in it for me? Why do I want to join Step Up to Quality? What are the benefits to me and my staff, if I happen to have staff, and most importantly, to my kids that I'm serving?
Great question. So we know that providers are already offering great experiences for the children in their care. And so when a provider decides to participate in Step Up to Quality, they are showing parents and their community that they are committed to going above and beyond, that they are dedicated to providing the best care and early education for the children in their program. The support they receive from Step Up to Quality team and the coaches not only helps providers to continuously improve their quality practices, but also reaffirms how important they are to the children in their care. Providers benefit from coaching, professional development, and training, as well as incentive bonuses, just to name a few of the perks of being involved in Step Up to Quality.
I love that. I really, when I heard you talking, some of the takeaways, I just was jotting a few notes, Jenny, as you were sharing that with us, about really showing the families and the community that you're committed, that you're truly here to serve children and families in Nebraska. And that's your solid why. That's why we do what we do, no matter what hat we wear. Our how might be different, but our why is the same. And Step Up to Quality can really help you meet that why and really show your commitment. So I love that. And it seems that we're always looking for ways to support our kids and families and providers here in Nebraska, and Step Up to Quality can directly impact that outcome for serving our community. So Lynne, you mentioned that you work with our coaches, and that's the hat you get to wear for your work that you do with Step Up. Talk to our listeners about the why of having a coach is something that can help them. What is some of that magic that's kind of encompassed in having a Step Up to Quality coach as someone who's with you on your journey?
What I know is that coach services are invaluable. And the reason we know that, through multiple surveys and feedback that we've gotten from the providers, they will tell you they see coach services as invaluable, the greatest benefit that you can access. And so what I want providers to understand is a coach is really an early childhood professional who should be seen as a partner, a guide, and a resource as you navigate your way through this process. You don't have to do it alone. You have people there who are supporting you and cheering you on. Providers, can often feel so overwhelmed and isolated, and sometimes it's a thankless job. And so we want you to know, as a provider, that Step Up to Quality understands how incredibly important your role is in building that strong foundation for each child in their care. An on-site coach can really focus on the strengths of each program, and they're bringing to light those areas that maybe are not present. And so it's simply a conversation. And the magic of coaching, as you alluded to earlier, I think that really happens when the coach and provider, they have an amazing amount of trust with each other, respect for one another, and there's that sense of openness to see or try things in a new way. The coach is not there to take over the program, but rather to enhance the program and help providers make it their own. The coach will always respect the provider's philosophy and follow their lead in order to meet their goals.
Gosh, if I was someone listening and I was kind of on the fence, Lynn, about, I don't know if I want a coach to come in and tell me what I need to do, or maybe I feel embarrassed about where we currently are. Like, you just eased a lot of my fears, because what I hear you say, or what I heard you say, is we're talking about someone who's going to come in and be a partner with me, help guide me through this process, and also be a resource. And then the other three words that I heard you mention were trust, respect, and openness. This is not someone who's going to come to my program or my business or my home and dictate to me what I must do in order to provide quality care for my kids. It's really a partnership, and that feels good to me. If I'm putting myself in someone else's shoes who is potentially thinking about joining Step Up to Quality, that feels really comfortable and really supportive. And I so appreciate you phrasing everything you just said in that way that feels like support, empathy, understanding, all of those things. And that truly is what Step Up to Quality is doing here. So I love that, Lynn. That's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about an elephant in the room. There have been some new recent changes to Step Up to Quality. So Lauri, can you tell our listeners a little bit about the revisions being made, or I just want to open it up to you so you have a space to kind of talk about maybe the revisions that were made, where I can learn more about that, and maybe even a little bit about why were a few revisions made?
Sure. So, with any program, it's always good to review, right? And, we have lots of data with as many programs as are participating. We've heard from lots of programs. From those 600 and almost 75 programs, we are seeing that folks are staying involved. They are liking Step Up to Quality. They're feeling like they want to continue in the program. So who better to hear from than our providers, right? So we heard, we listened. It's always important for us to make sure that we are continuing in making improvements in quality as well. And so with a large group of stakeholders and providers, we listened to that feedback. We've added some new kinds of things that I think our providers are going to really appreciate. Recognizing, again, some of the great things that may not have been represented in Step Up to Quality that they are doing. So we do have an updates page on our Step Up to Quality website that folks can go out and look. We've got our draft rating request forms. We heard that family child care providers would like to have their own rating request form rather than having one request form for all types of programs. So they'll be able to go out and see those additions that we think are enhancements. Some of those things are going to be launched prior to 2023. We've got some things happening, some great things happening this summer. We've got some things happening in early fall. And so that's a great place for folks to go out and see some of those enhancements and things that I think are improvements to Step Up to Quality.
Yeah, I love that, Lauri. And you said we heard, we listened, and we're revising. This is something that you're taking feedback, taking a moment to step back and reflect on this journey from 2014 and say, whoa, look where we are now. What have we learned? How can we even better serve our providers here in Nebraska. And that's why updates happened. And
Right.
you gave a really good resource on where to find those updates. Go to the Step Up to Quality page, the web page, and click under updates, and there's more to come. And that's
Right.
where you can find current info. So I think that's again, you really are just kind of easing. If I was someone new to Step Up listening to this podcast, all three of you are just kind of easing some of maybe potential fears or worries that I might have. Lynne really did a nice job of easing my fears about coaching. Jenny is easing my fears about observations and the why behind that. And Lauri, you really are easing my fears of revisions and how and why those happen. So I think it's just so helpful to be able to have you three here and hear your supportive messages. This is great. So I just am really excited, and I can very much tell that there's a reason why you all do the jobs you do. You're very passionate about supporting our community in Nebraska. It's very obvious to me, and I hope to our listeners as well, that you can really hear how strongly these three ladies on this panel podcast believe in you. And since this podcast theme, it's our first one, was a big fat thank you, let's take a minute and get to the thank you part of this podcast. I know, Lauri, when we were kind of brainstorming about what should the first topic be on episode 1, Lauri was adamant that, oh gosh, we just have to make sure that they hear that thank you message loud and clear. So I'm going to ask each of you to speak on that. Our audience is listening, our providers and our future Step Up to Quality providers are listening. What do you want to say to them? So Lauri, I'll have you go first. Go ahead and give them your big old thank you.
You know, it's hard to say thank you is enough. You know, all of the amazing things that we've seen our providers do in the last couple of years, it's been a tough environment. And, you know, they have had courage. They have stayed committed. They've continued to serve their families and their communities. And it's, as I said earlier, you know, support and recognition are really important in this work. And we just want to recognize and thank the providers who continue to do the work and serve their families. And that is why I said, gosh, we just need to say thank you. We're proud, so proud of the programs that have stayed involved in Step Up to Quality and have done this work even before the pandemic. But that, you know, we need to recognize that it's even been more difficult. If there's any good news from, you know, the last couple of years, early childhood has really, really been highlighted with how important the work is. We've known that, but I think our communities really are recognizing how important having a quality program for their children is as well. So thank you to all of the folks who have continued to do this really important work.
Oh, you gave me goosebumps and got me a little choked up. But yes, so proud. And Lauri, you're so right. Like, it has been highlighted. We know this is the most important work in the world, but now the rest of the world is starting to realize that as well. And that is, I love how you put that silver lining over working through the pandemic as an early childhood provider. Yes, absolutely. Oh, that was such a good message. Thanks for sharing that, Lauri. Lynne, same thing. Let's hear I'm giving you a spot to say thanks.
You bet. Thank you, Colleen. Like Lauri said, thank you doesn't seem like that's enough. I wish we could do more, but I do give all those early childhood providers a big old sincere, heartfelt thank you for just all the hard work that they put into their work every day. They're working with families, they're working with children. It's endless hours that it consumes. Their selfless dedication is just off the charts. And then that abundant love that you give to the children and families you're caring for. I look at you and I think I hear sometimes people call themselves a babysitter, or I hear people refer to providers as babysitters. And I want you to know that is not accurate. That is absolutely not accurate. You really are an early childhood professional who has the incredible power and responsibility to prepare each child for their future success. And so you do make a difference in the lives of each child. And I just thank you for that. And just as another reminder, don't forget, you don't have to do this alone. Our team, Step Up to Quality, is here to support you along that journey.
Wow. Yeah, the selfless dedication and abundant love that you have doesn't mean that you do this on your own. And Step Up to Quality is here to support you. That was beautiful, Lynne. Aw, you guys. Okay, Jenny, your last but not least, go ahead and give a big thank you to our providers here in Nebraska.
I think the biggest thing that I want providers to take away is that you matter. No matter what your role is, whether you are a lead teacher in the classroom, to that sole provider in your program, to the cook, to the substitute, you have a very important role in what you do. So don't ever sell yourself short. We can't be who we are without you. Your programs can't be who they are without you. And so know that everything you provide to that program is such a benefit to the children in your care. You're molding our future leaders, and that is certainly an important role to take on. The impact that you have now on the children in your care will show in the children's future lives. And so, think about that being such an important role that you're playing right now. So thank you for signing up to take on that role, because it's not easy, but boy, is that such a rewarding role.
I love that, Jenny. I love that you said you matter. You do matter, listeners. And thank you, Jenny, for highlighting every role matters. I like to say the floater is probably the most important role that we have in the early childhood center sometimes. And every role makes a difference. It doesn't matter what hat you're wearing when you're providing quality care for kids, you matter. That was so lovely. Thank you, ladies, for sharing those little sentiments of thanks. And a big thank you to all our providers. And again, a big thank you to the 3 panelists here on our very first, yay, Step Up to Quality, Stepping Up podcast. You 3 really do make the Step Up to Quality world go round. So thank you, everyone, for spending quality time with us. Please join again as we chat about future topics to support our Nebraskan providers on their journey with Step Up to Quality. Until next time, bye-bye.